There aren't many games quite like Megaman Battle Network. With its unique card battler RPG mechanics and internet-based aesthetics, the series has only stood out more as time went on. And at the heart of this series are the battle chips, the game's main method of attack. These USB-shaped cards are what makes and break the combat, and if you follow this channel, you know that quite well. With 6 mainline entries, that's well over 300 different battle chips that players have used to bust both viruses and navis. So today I begin my quest in ranking every single battle chip in the series, starting with the first entry. But no, I won't be factoring letter codes into these rankings. This is all based on the power and practicality of the chip itself. So be sure to subscribe to be notified of the next ranking and leave a like, hype, and comment to show your support. Without further ado, let's get started. First on our list is the Cannon series of chips. Cannon, High Cannon, and Mega Cannon. They're one of the most iconic chips in the series since they're in every single starter folder. It's also one of the most straightforward, dealing a simple burst of damage with no strings attached. They're not awful by any means, but they're also extremely basic. There isn't much to be said about this chip. It's basic burst damage and nothing else. So with that said, I'm placing Cannon in D and the rest in C. Next are the Gun series of chips. Shotgun, Crossgun, and Spreader. Each of them deals 30 damage, but have the added effect of also hitting other enemies around them. Shotgun can hit enemies behind your target, Crossgun hits diagonal adjacent to your target, and Spreader hits all panels around the target. Shotgun and Crossgun are also staples of the starting folder up to the third entry. These two are just a tad too situational for me to rate them highly. Sure, they have a high fast rate of fire, but 30 damage doesn't even outright delete a Metar. Even if you factor hitting an enemy from behind or in a cross, enemy placements are RNG dependent. At least with Spreader, it's far more consistent since you'll be guaranteed a wide range of attacks. So I'm placing all of them in the D tier, but with Spreader at the very top. Now, Spreader could have been ranked higher, but again, it's only 30 damage. And speaking of higher damage, our next two chips are Bubbler and Heater. They're Aqua and Fire Elemental spreaders that deal 50 and 70 damage respectively. It's basically a better spreader, but with a nice bonus of being elemental. So Fire enemies take 100 from Bubbler, and Wood enemies take 140 from Heater. Both of these chips are an improvement, but not enough to be anywhere in the higher tiers, so they're going in C. Our next chip is the ever-faithful Mini Bomb, which has Megaman lobbing a bomb 3 panels away for 50 damage. It's also another staple of the starter folder for every game in the series. Now, 50 damage on a starting chip isn't too bad. It one-shots Metars and can bring most early game enemies to at least below half health. The downside, however, is the fact that you have to throw the bomb. Unlike the previous chips, this isn't some hit scan attack. You have to actually aim. And the timing means that you could even miss if some enemies are capable of moving, especially bosses. Because of that, I'm placing this chip at the top of D, below Spreader. It's more practical than the worst of the busters, but Spreader at least can hit a wide spread of enemies. Next is a series of bomb chips, Little Bomb, Cross Bomb, and Big Bomb. Each of these are bombs, but with a larger damage spread. Little Bomb hits adjacent vertical panels, Cross Bomb hits adjacent panels in a cross shape, and Big Bomb hits 9 adjacent panels. So this is where things get a bit interesting. Now they deal 50, 70, and 90 respectively, with the first two having their damage slightly buffed by Operation Shooting Star. However, for the rest of the ranking, we won't be applying those changes here. At the very least, these are just a much greater improvement than Mini Bomb in every conceivable way. Just having a better blast radius is an improvement, so at the very least, Little Bomb goes in C. And both Cross Bomb and Big Bomb can go in B. After that, we have the Sword series of chips. Sword, Wide Sword, and Long Sword. Each deals 80 damage, but their attack range changes. Sword is only one enemy, Wide Sword affects the vertical adjacent panels, and Long Sword targets 2 panels rather than 1. 80 damage, but the trade-off is the short range. At the very least, it does do a decent chunk of damage early on, but you are relying on area grab in order to really make use of it. At the very least, a Wide Sword and Long Sword are more practical to use than Sword, but they're still hampered by their limited range, so they aren't getting too high. Every single one of these swords are placed in C tier. Now we have the next series of swords, the Fighter Sword, Knight Sword, and Hero Sword. Each of these swords are 3 panels long in length and only increase in damage with each chip. Compared to the previous swords, these are way better in every single way. 3 panels in length has no equal when it comes to most sword chips in the series. There's no weakness in range, so you don't even need to be reliant on area grab. The damage is especially good for what you're getting. Quite honestly, I have no issues with placing all 3 of these in the A tier. It's just that good and far superior to everything we've covered so far. Can't get too lost in that placement though, because now we have the Elemental Sword trio of Fire Sword, Aqua Sword, and Elect Sword. These deal a strange variety of elemental damage with the same range as a Wide Sword. By all means, it's a better Wide Sword and has an advantage of dealing double damage against their specific element, but does that make it better than the previous batch of sword? I still think the fighter swords are better, but I think the swords are still good enough to be at B. Now, our next chip is Muramasa, a chip that'll be bumped in rarity as the series continues on. It does exactly as it always has, deal damage equal to how much HP you've lost. Now, unlike any other game in the series, you automatically recover HP after the end of each battle, meaning to make the most use out of this, you have to be willing to take damage every single time. Now, the damage cap in this game for Muramasa is 500 HP. While that is one of the highest dealing damages a chip could do, it does require you to take the hit first. The attack range is the same as sword, but hey, a possible 500 per swing. But that one attack range really does hurt this chip's effectiveness. Don't get me wrong, it's still pretty powerful, but again, a range of one panel. However, because it's quite easy to area grab an opponent to death in this game, this chip goes all the way to A tier. Next up is our first series of virus-based chips with Shockwave, Sonic Wave, and Dino Wave. Each of these sends out a Shockwave attack that goes down the entire row you send this on. Not only does the damage increase, but the speed of which you unleash your attacks also goes faster. These are essentially the poor man's fighter sword. It can go down an entire row, but the speed isn't nearly equatable. Despite that, it's still serviceable for the early to mid game when you get them. I think that all three of them can be placed at the top of C. With shockwaves comes towers, as we have Fire Tower, Aqua Tower, and Wood Tower. Each of these fires off a series of elemental towers that'll hone in on the first nearest enemy. It's a relatively basic attack, but only goes for a single enemy. While you don't have to worry about aiming it, there are other chips that can do what this does, but better. I'll give it some points for being elemental based, so they can deal double damage to a single enemy, so at the very least, they can go bottom B. Next is another series of throwing chips in Quake 1, 2, and 3. You throw a Powie virus and it'll come down in the form of a large anvil-like structure, damaging whatever it crushes and cracking the panel underneath. They do more damage than the other bomb chips, but it's only single target. Against bosses, it's a nice source of damage, sure, but it's still outclassed by the top tier options. Plus, it also comes with the weakness of having to time and aim these, so these are going in C tier. After that, we have Guts Punch and Ice Punch, which are sword-ranged punch attacks. An impressive single-panel attack for 160 and 150 respectively. Wait. Sorry, that was the Operation Shooting Star version. Their actual damages in the original are 60 and 80 respectively. And these are cheeks. Guts Punch is literally a worse sword, except it can knock things back one panel. Whoop-de-doo. No one is using this with Rock Cube. At least Ice Punch can deal double damage to fire enemies, but there are way better options for that. Both of them are going to top of D. Next up is Dash, which has you going across the entire row, dealing damage to whoever gets in your way. It's a 50 damage shockwave, in which said shockwave has an even better version. The fact that so many chips do the same but better really goes to show how experimental the first game really was. Unfortunately, Dash is also going to D tier. Next up, we have another throwing chip in Howitzer, which can either damage an enemy or cause an empty panel to become a whole panel. It has the exact same damage as Quake 3, but doesn't crack an occupied panel, so we'll place it right below in C. Now, we have another series of chips in Triple Arrow, Triple Spear, and Triple Lance. These are our first multi-hitting chips that fires 3 arrows, each dealing 40, 50, and 60 respectively. With a fast rate of fire and decent damage output, I can honestly say they deserve to be in the B tier. Following that is the Raton series of chips with Raton 1, 2, and 3. These fire off a single Raton that'll turn once and hit whatever it collides with. There are certainly a lot of chips that do similar things for similar levels of damage. You could argue that these are more effective against enemies that like to move around. Sure, I can give it that. Heck, I'd say I'd prefer using these than Quakes, but only just better than Quakes. So they're going in C tier. Our next series are the Wave chips with Wave, Red Wave, and Big Wave. Each fires off a 3-row projectile of waves that'll hit the first enemy they come into contact with. In some ways, they're way better than Dino Wave since they can cover all 3 panels. Sure, each wave only hits the first enemy, but for nearly most fights, that's all you really need. Not only that, but these are also aqua/fire based chips, so against those elemental weak opponents, it's guaranteed you'll get the hit off. Due to that, I'm confident enough to put these at the top of B tier. Our next set of chips may even be better with the Gaia chips in Gaia 1, 2, and 3. Each fires off a 3-column explosion that'll strike every panel it comes across. It's even better than Wave since it'll strike everything in its path and keep going. It might lack elemental damage, sure, but these are great for clearing fields of viruses. For that alone, they're worthy of the A tier spot. Coming from that, we now have our first series of electric chips other than Elexord. Thunder 1, 2, and 3. I'm sure saying 1, 2, and 3 a lot. Now, if this were the later series, these would be great, but seeing as this is the first game, these are projectiles that only go forward and only deal damage. There is no stun effect here. I give them bonus points for being elemental based and deal pretty good damage as well. Though it is a slower projectile than most, so I think C tier is a fair placement. The electric train only continues, however, with the Ring Zap series. These cause lightning to circle around Megaman, with each version increasing the number of times it circles around you. However, once that lightning hits you once, then the chip ends. Now, compared to every other chip in Battle Network 1, this is the only one where an attack happens around you. But each chip deals the same 100 damage, and since it ends after being hit once, I really don't think too highly of this. Sure, Dirt expanded against Sharkman that one time, but considered a regular practical use. So with that, I'm putting this in C tier. Our next batch of chips are another multi-hitting one with Typhoon, Hurricane, and Cyclone. Each one deals 30 damage over 3, 5, and 8 hits respectively from 2 panels away. These deal pretty good damage, though you will need to use area grab to get to the back row, but aside from that, it's good stuff. Cyclone is a pretty high damaging chip given that it is Mega Man Battle Network 1, so these can go in the B tier. Next is our first series of screen dimming chips in the Snake Egg series. Upon use, it'll dim the screen and spawns in a snake of each respective element. Each snake will move from panel to panel randomly until it hits an enemy and disappears. Snake Egg 2 stuns an enemy, and Snake Egg 3 leaves behind a small fire upon spawning. It's a very odd series of chips that'll deal decent damage. Being elemental is a bonus, and Snake Egg 2 actually stunning is valuable. We'll put Snake Eggs 1 and 3 in C tier with Snake Egg 2 in B tier. With that, we've got another batch of screen dimming chips in the Drain series. These will dim the screen before having Mega Man go across the row like Dash. The difference here is that he'll deal damage and then recover HP for that amount. It's better than Dash, but if you wanted a chip that recovered HP and or deal damage, there are better options. And while the Program Advanced Vampire Kiss is pretty nice, it does take a huge investment to set up. So these are going in C tier. Now, this next chip drops from a stronger fishy virus, but does something completely different. Body Burn causes flames to spawn around you in a cross shape, dealing damage to anything that touches it. It's a much faster Ring Zap that deals the same amount of damage. It's a better Ring Zap, and that's that. So another C tier. After that, we have a dual series of X Panel 1 and 3. One creates a whole panel in front of you, and the other creates a column of whole panels in front of you. Stopping the Metar is clearly a big deal when most of the viruses in this game don't really care about whole panels. There isn't much benefit to these when there's a series of chips that are even better. It tells you everything when X Panel 1 is a part of the starting folder. B tier for the both of them. Now, Hammer is just a slightly stronger Gut Punch. It's 100 damage but can break obstacles, and I'm quite sure it can break through some defenses as well. It's just a better sword, and that's it. C tier. Speaking of defense, Mech Guard causes Mega Man to generate a shield for 3 seconds when holding down the A button. It'll block attacks, and that's that. There's tons of defensive chips that are far more practical to use than the 3-second shield that prevents every other action. D tier. As for Iron Shield, you hold down the button to make a shield, but unlike Mech Guard, it'll shoot out and damage the first enemy it comes across. But even still, I'd rather just use another better support chip. C tier. Now comes our longest series of chips, the ever faithful Recovery. Recovery 10, 30, 50, 80, 120, 150, 200, and 300. That's a mouthful. Recovery chips are great when you're just starting out and need to avoid a game over. If it's PvP, then it's also just as important to keep staying alive. Now, how am I gonna rank these? Simple. 10, 30, and 50 go in D. 80, 120, 150, and 200 go in C. 300 goes in B. Easy. Just as easy as this next one, the Gray Area Grab, or rather in this game, Steal. It does what it sets out to do. You steal the leftmost column of an opponent's area. It's temporary, but it can stay indefinitely so long as you occupy those columns. There is nothing far greater than this. The ability to deny your opponent's space is one of the most powerful things in this game. Because of that, this is our first definitive S tier. It took us 76 previous chips just to get to this point. Speaking of panels, our next set of chips is Get In 1 and 2. Get In 1 causes all panels to become cracked, while 2 causes every non-occupied panel to become whole panels. Get In 1 is not that practical, since if you wanted to make whole panels, you'd be better off with 2. And Get In 2, while not as versatile in this game compared to later entries, at least lets you silly bomb or sword slash a boss to death with the right setup. So I put Get In 1 at D and Get In 2 at B. Now, what's next? Oh look everybody, it's Escape. It lets you escape battle because running away wasn't a feature yet. Next up is Interrupt. This chip has no function outside of PvP. What does it do? Well, it permanently destroys all the currently selected chips your opponent has. It's a tricky chip to rank given everything, but I think I can put this in the S tier solely for how broken it is in PvP. Now, next up is Repair, which returns all panels on your side back to normal. Well, it's not bad, just not in this first game since there isn't as much to repair, but it's still useful for getting rid of annoying panel conditions, so the best I'll give it in this game is a B. With that out of the way, we now have the Time Bomb series of chips. The way the chip works is pretty straightforward since it's in the name. You spawn a bomb on the opponent's area, it takes down from 3 to 0, and then explodes the entire area. Now, the bomb can be destroyed, but you're probably gonna set it off one way or another. With fantastic explosive AoE and good damage, it goes in B. Our next series of chips after that is the Cloud series from Cloud, Cloudier, and Cloudist. These spawn in a rain cloud about 2 panels away and will proceed to go up and down, raining and dealing damage to whatever's underneath for about 2 cycles. Now, it can deal damage multiple times, sure, but relying on something that has to go back up and down to deal damage is rather inconsistent, especially against moving enemies. You might not even deal damage at all, so I think it's safe to place these in C tier. Next up is the Mine series of chips of Mine 1, 2, and 3. These will place a random mine anywhere across the enemy's field. If they step on it, the mine explodes and they take damage. Now, these are the sorts of chips that are used primarily against moving enemies since you can't place them wherever you want. Due to that, it's probably a given that they'll explode at some point one way or another. This is especially true in PvP. Because moving enemies are bound to hit it sooner or later, it's not a bad way of dealing damage. Sure, there are far more consistent and faster ways to do it, but there are also far worse ways to do it. So with all that said, these are going near the top of C. From here, we have another explosive chip in the Dynamite series. These will spawn in a dynamite grenade that will immediately explode across a series of panels based on the chip itself. 1 looks for the right, 2 looks in both left and right diagonally, and 3 looks up and down. It's not the worst way to deal damage, but because all 3 chips have different directional targets, it's not as consistent as it could be, so these are going in the C tier as well. Our next batch is the rather unorthodox Remobit series of 1, 2, and 3. These will spawn in their respective twisty viruses, which spawns in the remote cloud, which sends down lightning towards a panel and either deals damage to an enemy or will cause the empty panel to become a whole panel. It'll continue to go in a pattern across the entire field unless the virus is defeated. Honestly, the fact that it'll go across the entire field is a pretty nice bonus. The twisty can even serve as a nice distraction while enemies have to deal with either missing panels or taking damage. It's not the best chip, but it's definitely a lot better than most on this list, so B. Our next series is the Lock-On series. These will spawn in their respective Satellovirus and will lock on an enemy and fire, dealing damage 10 times. It'll continue to do this until it's destroyed, which is incredibly easy to do. For a simple chip, it's actually one of the best in the game. Plenty of setups can easily take advantage of this, and the fact that it can continue to fire and deal really good damage says a lot. Sure, if an enemy is fast enough it'll dodge it, but there are ways around that. Due to its insane damage output and little investment, it easily lands in the S tier without question. After that, we have the Candle series of chips. These will spawn in a chip that will continuously heal Megaman's HP until they're gone. The higher the number, the faster the recovery process. It's a pretty easy thing to rank since under plenty of circumstances, it's just free recovery. There is no investment and can last quite a while if you play your cards right. Of course, it is easy to get rid of and is a bit reliant on other pieces to do its job. But all in all, Candles 1 and 2 land themselves in C and Candles 3 in B. Though our next chip may easily trump any obstacle in this game. Anubis spawns in an Anubis statue that will rapidly drain enemies of their health. It can be destroyed, but it's quite durable and the HP drain is ridiculously fast. It's easily one of the strongest chips in the game and is why it gets nerfed right after. It's an easy S for sure. After that, we have the Cube series of Ice Cube and Rock Cube. Ice Cube spawns in an Ice Cube right in front of you, while Rock Cube will spawn 3 random Rock Cubes. These cubes can also be interacted with chips such as Spreader to deal damage around them, or be pushed by ones like Guts Punch to deal a nice chunk of damage to enemies. They're quite durable and can act as shield as well as have some utility. Ice Cube can go in C with Rock Cube in B. After that, we have the very unique Buster series of Buster Guard, Bomb, Sword, and Punch. These will for one turn change your Mega Buster to the according attack. Guard becomes a Mech Guard, Bomb becomes Mini Bomb, Sword is Sword, and Punch is Guts Punch. These are quite gimmicky in nature, but in PvE it's not like you have to worry about going into custom gauge. PvP? Not so much. Sure, you can use them, but you're better off saving space in your folder for far more practical chips. I'm placing these in the C tier. After that, we have Slow and Fast Gauge, which will have the custom gauge go either slower or faster. In PvE, you have no reason to use Slow Gauge. Fast Gauge lets you get to your chips faster and is just amazing. Low gauge is far more practical in PvP where you're able to deal damage without concern of chips and want to cripple your opponent's offenses as much as possible. Low gauge goes in C while fast gauge goes in S. Now after that we have the Invis series, which will have Megaman temporarily turn invisible for a short period of time. Each ascending chip will increase how long that timer is. Damage immunity is always powerful and the Invis chips are no exception. Though in this game they're actually outcompeted by an even greater source of immunity, but we'll get to that soon. Still, damage immunity is damage immunity, so they're going in B due to far greater options. Next is drop down, which makes you immune to damage until you attack. It's fine, but the fact that it's gone the moment you attack is a sore point. It's not worth it since it's just preferable to be immune while attacking, so C tier. Now, pop-up on the other hand is truly powerful. So long as you're not attacking, you will remain immune to damage. Not only that, but it even lasts longer than the Invis chips, which altogether makes this one of the most powerful support chips in the game. It's an easy S tier for how much you get for how little you give. And after that amazing chip, we have Iron Body, which causes Megaman to gain a stone-like body, becoming immune to attacks for 30 seconds. The trade-off, of course, is that you can't move during the duration. In some regards, it's like pop-up, but the drawback of being unable to move does hurt since it means you won't be able to use most chips properly. While far from the worst, it's certainly unable to contend with the other attack immune status chips, though it's gonna be in B tier. After that we have Barrier, which allows Megaman to take a single hit before the barrier disappears. Having the ability to not take a hit which doesn't have a duration sounds nice, but it is still competing against other options. However, it's not a terrible chip to have. With that said, it's gonna be in C tier. After that we have the Bubble Wrap series, which manifests a bubble barrier around you. It takes a single hit before disappearing, but will reappear again after some time. However, it will disappear for good should you be hit by an electric attack. It's a far superior barrier and can definitely be considered as a great defensive chip due to its regenerative properties. But funny enough, they are outclassed by an even greater barrier, so they're going in B for Bubble. Next, we have Leaf Shield, which definitely takes direct inspiration from Mega Man 2 of the same name. With this chip, the next hit you take will recover HP by the same amount instead of taking damage. Not a bad means of recovery, though again you'd be better off not taking damage at all in the first place, but it's still better than Barrier by all accounts, so it's going in B. After that, we have the very special Aura series with Aqua Aura, Fire Aura, Wood Aura, and Life Aura. These will nullify any damage that's below their specified threshold but weak to their elemental weaknesses, with the sole exception of Life Aura. Compared to any other barrier, these are meant to be the highest form. With Aqua being the worst and Life Aura being the absolute best, it'll be pretty easy to rank these. Aqua goes to C, Fire and Wood to B, and then Life Aura goes to S due to how strong it is compared to most defensive options. It took us a little over 20 minutes, but we can finally start talking about the Navi chips. Unlike the previous chips, these are akin to JRPG summons and tend to be stronger and stop time while doing so. And what better way to start than with the iconic Roll Navi chip, present in every game in the series. In this game, it deals a flat amount of damage before healing Mega Man for the same amount. It's one of the most basic Navi chips in the series, but there's a reason why it stuck for as long as it did. Simple but effective. It's not the strongest, but not the worst either, so it sits at a comfortable C tier. Gutsman, on the other hand, has remained a Navi chip for about 4 out of 6 entries. His is just as simple as he spawns in, emits a shockwave that goes towards every panel he faces, causing both damage and panels to be cracked. For what you get, it's not a bad form of early AoE. He's also a part of the incredibly easy Gut Shoot program advance as well, but as a chip in his own right, he's alright. So another C tier. Proto Man is also another staple who has had a Navi chip in every single game in the series. He simply warps towards the nearest enemy and hits with a wide sword ranged attack. At least this chip doesn't require any area, so on its own it's a pretty decent single target Navi chip, so we'll give him a B for blues. With that we enter Fireman, our first fire elemental Navi chip. Fireman comes in and unleashes his firearm attack on an entire row. He's basically a better Shockwave series with the added bonus of elemental damage. And so, because of that, he also gets put in B tier. Our next Navi after that is the brains of the series, Number Man. He spawns in this die roll attack which will explode and deal damage to an entire area based on the number times the allotted amount. As much I'd like to say this is good, it's really not. Sure, RNG isn't the worst thing at times for a battle chip, but for Number Man it hurts especially in this game. Even at V3, the worst you will deal is a mere 30 and at best 180. I will give some credit, however, in the enemy HP values were not as high in this entry. So due to that, the worst it'll get is the bottom of C. Our next one after that is Stone Man, who will drop an allotted number of stones toward the random area panels on the enemy's field. Theoretically, Stone Man is capable of dealing one of the highest base damages in the game. At V3, the amount of stones sent out is a lot and you are guaranteed to get a hit at least once out of 3 times, but much like Numberman, the RNG can be an issue, though not to the same extent, so this one is also going to be near the top of C tier instead. Next up is Iceman, who launches an Aqua Elemental attack towards every column of panels he's facing, much like Gutsman. Though Gutsman causes cracked panels, Iceman is more useful against fire-based enemies. Not a bad chip in that regard, so this one is also going towards C tier as well. Now, Colorman is more interesting since he'll spawn and launch both a fire and aqua tower which behave much like the actual chips. Though it's not exactly an AoE chip, having 2 attacks in one that deal decent damage isn't bad at all. Given this one is more consistent than others, it's going to B tier as well. After him is Elekman, who will send lightning strikes towards all enemy occupied panels. This is by far the most consistent AoE with decent damage out of any other Navi chip aside from a few others. He's especially useful against Navis like Sharkman, and it's just a great chip overall in those cases. Due to that, he's one of the few going to A tier. After him is Bombman, who sends a cross bomb attack 3 panels away which will detonate in the cross shape. Sure, it's not an all AoE attack like a Lekman, but the damage you deal and the range isn't terrible. In fact, it's a pretty decent attack option, especially against Navis like Woodman, so this one's going in B tier. After him, we have one of the stranger Navi chips in Magic Man. He launches his Magic Fire attack which goes down the row until it hits the first enemy it comes into contact with. It's got a 25% chance of instantly deleting any enemy it comes into contact with, but of course it doesn't work on bosses. Again, this chip deals decent enough damage, and even though it's not really AoE, it still has that instant delete chance, so I'll give it a top of C ranking. From there, Woodman is another Navi chip that deals an area-wide attack like Iceman and Gutsman. It's here where you really start seeing a pattern with these Navi chips compared to later entries, though another C tier placement. After him is Skullman, who attacks a single enemy with a large skull. Having one of the actual highest base damages of any Navi chip, he's pretty good at what he does, so in that regard he's going straight to A tier for that reason. And right after is Sharkman, who launches yet another Gutsman style attack with his 3 fins. It's an even better Iceman due to dealing slightly more damage, so this one also goes in B. Honestly, at this point we also have to give a B to Pharaohman because he also does the exact same thing but better. Can you see how boring the Navi chips were in the first game? Battleman at the very least splits into 3 clones before each of them unleashes a 3-star attack. It can attack the same enemies 3 times if they're the only one, I believe. Even then, it's still a consistent amount of damage they had to nerf in Operation Shooting Star. It's an A tier Navi chip. With all of that said, we are now down to our last but not least chip on this list. It's the secret chip base, which was only attainable to Japanese events. This deals 200 damage across the entire field with its air burst attack. Now, multiple hits aside, it is one of the most powerful chips in the entire game. There's a reason why it was event exclusive for so long. F-code might suck, but we're ranking these on the chip itself, so in that regard it's the only Navi chip to be in S tier. At long last, we have ranked every single battle chip in Megaman Battle Network 1. For our first game, you'll have noticed plenty of this, but better for a majority of these, but it was the first game. Going forward, things will be a lot better in terms of diversity, so look forward to the other rankings. With that, I bid you well. Peace.